Welcome to the D-VELO-P Cycling Training Podcast, where we untangle the complexities of peak performance in cycling. My name is Fredrik Eriksson, and together with my partner in crime, Erik Åkesson, we are the dorky coaching duo who will be your hosts. Hello and welcome to episode 21 of our cycling training podcast. My name is Fredrik.
And I'm Eric. And today we have another guest with us. It is our first international guest, which is very fun to do.
And it was also a guy who has not been on any podcast before. So we got the honor of having him for the first time on a podcast.
Yeah, and he did not disappoint. It was a very good conversation with Simon Andreassen from Denmark, who joined us for this week's episode, where we dove in about his background in cycling and his youth, from a very playful intro to cycling to becoming world champion in junior category, and a bit ruts and setbacks as well in his career and trajectory to where he is now as a professional mountain biker.
Yeah, I think it was fun listening to his background. I especially enjoyed hearing him choosing mountain biking over other disciplines, mostly due to his fondness of nature. That was great. He also told us a little bit from his perspective of what we coaches tend to get wrong most of the time. What's the most common coaching mistake? That was really interesting, I think. And like you said, he talked a little bit about his ruts during his long professional career and how he has managed to get back from those setbacks and back to the highest level in cross-country mountain biking.
Yeah, and he as well answered the question what advice he would give to a 10 years younger self when he was about 20, and if it was the same back then as he is now. And that was also very, very interesting.
And in addition, I thought it was exciting hearing him talk about which metric he thought was most useful and which one he thought was most misleading, which, by the way, was the same thing. Yeah. So I think that was a great discussion during this interview.
Yeah. So let's not drag anything more out on this. Here is Simon Andreassen.
Okay. We have a new guest on the podcast for today. And as we've been told, this is actually a podcast virgin we have as a guest. Would you like to introduce yourself?
Yeah. My name is Simon Andreassen, and this is my first podcast.
Nice. Can you tell us about yourself? Because me and Fredrik, we know you now, but historically we haven't known you, so we don't really know your journey. Can you tell us a bit about how you got into cycling and where you are today?
Yeah, I have been cycling most of my life, as long as I can remember, actually, and I'm still cycling today, so nothing's really changed in that way. I think I got into cycling through my dad and my family. I would say there's been a lot of cycling in the family. Not really on a professional level, but more as a, enjoyable activity to do and a passion. And I I just got it in since I was very little, with all kinds of bikes, mountain bikes and road bikes and track cycling and cyclocross, and been doing quite a lot of different cycling over the years.
And how did you choose to do mountain biking when you have done all the other disciplines before?
I think I don't really. Yeah, it's a good question. I think from the beginning it was what I enjoyed the most. I think the other parts of cycling was also fun, but what I really liked was being out in the woods and just playing on my bike. And you know for sure I really like the competitions, and you can compete in a lot of ways on bikes, but the playfulness on mountain bikes is not the same on a road bike or on a track bike. Or I really fell in love with that since I was a kid, and as I grew older, I think I got to a point where I had to choose what I wanted to do, and that was mountain biking. It was always mountain biking I wanted to carry on with. And I think it's possible to combine it, but it's a very big sacrifice if you are competing all year round, if you want to do cyclocross and also do the road and do mountain biking. I think every year the cycling now just gets more and more professional, and the level in each discipline also rises every year, and it's getting harder and harder to combine different disciplines.
Absolutely. And like you said, you tried a lot of disciplines and you fell in love with mountain biking. You mentioned a little bit that you love being out in the forest. How much did that, was that like one of the main thing that got you into mountain biking, or were there other aspects that made you fall in love more with mountain biking than other disciplines?
I think it's definitely the feeling of freedom you get on the bike. You can go out in in the forest, and even in Denmark, we don't really have big forests, but you still feel like you are, you get completely lost, and you feel like you are just alone in the world, and you're not surrounded by cars and other people. And it's, I really like that, just going out, and especially now, like being in the mountains and just being able to, go out and explore and, really feel the nature. I really like that about mountain biking, and that's the reason why I'm still doing it.
For quite some years. Uh, could you dive a little bit into like your journey from growing up as a kid, falling in love with mountain biking, and now you're a professional mountain biker for quite some years, and you don't live in Denmark anymore. You live in Andorra. Walk us a little bit through that journey.
Yeah, it's a long journey. Definitely. I don't know if we have time for all of that, but I think, as I said, I raced on Mount. I think I did my first race more than 20 years ago, and it was, I don't know, 2003 or something. Like it's quite some years ago, and then since all my youth years, I was racing different bikes, but majority was mountain bike. And in the junior category, I was quite successful, and I was able to get a professional contract after my junior years, and I joined Specialized I was there for 5 or 6 years, and then I moved on to Cannondale for 4 years, and after that I switched to Orbea, where I'm racing now for the second year. So adding that together, it is quite some years actually now. I'm starting to feel a bit old. I remember end of last year I saw I was the oldest on the top 10 in the world ranking.
Really?
Made me feel really old.
You said you were quite successful as a junior, but if my memory serves me right, you were the first one to win 2 consecutive world championships in junior category. Is that correct?
I don't know if I was the first one, but it's definitely correct that I won both years.
And to put things into perspective, one of the years you won, the guy in second place was Egan Bernal. Is that is right?
Yeah, that was the first one, yeah.
The first one. So you were very, very, very good as a youth and junior as well, which landed you in the contract. As you said, you're from Denmark and we are from Sweden, and we see that Denmark as a nation has a big cycling community and very, very good at all the disciplines in cycling. How was it if you go back 10, 15 years when you raced a lot with the national team? How was it back then? And how did Denmark develop so many good mountain bike riders 10, 15 years ago?
Yeah, I think you are right with your. I think Denmark is really successful in cycling general, and I think on the mountain bike, I think before, like, there was a big gap, like in the early 2000s, like till 2015, something like that. There was a big gap where there wasn't really any professional riders, and it was there was a lot of, in like around my year, like there was a lot of, like, maybe a little bit older than me, like Sebastian Finney, and his years as well. There was, and the national coach, the current national coach, he did a lot of work with, like, especially with the youth when we were not so old at that time, but it was kind of building a new structure for the national team, and I don't know, developing new riders, because there weren't really any, like, we didn't have anyone to look up to. There was no older professionals that we could kind of see, or do we want to be like him, or so it was really starting from scratch. And now there's a much how do you say, like, greater depth in riders. We have quite a lot of riders on the World Cup and under 23s and June. Like, there's always new ones coming, and I think it's a lot has to a lot comes from the national team and the development, like, that goes into the younger riders.
I think the point you're making now with role models is really important. And I actually remember one of the first riders that I idolized when I started cycling in the early 90s was a Danish rider, Henrik Gernis, who was world champion in cross-country mountain biking. And I mean, I still remember we were on vacation in Denmark, in Copenhagen, and we went into a bike shop. And I don't even know if he has ever been in that bike shop, but I remember there was a bike hanging there, same brand that he was riding, and it said Henrik on it. Might not even have been the same Henrik, but I was like starstruck, and I still remember it to this day. So I mean, that kind of says how important those kind of role models are for young athletes.
Yeah, definitely. And I think, like, in my case, it was at the time when I was at the point like turning professional, mountain biking was still not very big in Denmark, and it was always like, I don't know how many hundreds of time I've had the question like, when are you going to go to the road? Like, when are you going to change to the road? And I still get asked, today. I mean, I don't even own a road bike, and I haven't ridden a road bike for years now. And
Maybe we should scratch that question, Frederick.
it is like, especially in Denmark, it is kind of expected that you, like, if you are good on the track or in mountain biking, like, when are you going to the road? It's kind of the natural, like, progression. And I've never had the interest, like, I never really, like, wanted to do it. I think I tried it, like, when I was younger, and I never really found the same joy in it. And yeah, that's the reason why I'm not racing on the road.
Yeah, I think we can get back to that a little bit when we talk later a little bit about your philosophy and as an athlete, because I think there might be some touching points there. But right now I would actually want to ask a little bit about, you've mentioned a few people who seems to have been important during your career. You mentioned your dad, you mentioned the national team coach, Mads. But I'm guessing there are several others, and a little bit of a focal point for our podcast is especially coaching, of course, but you don't really have to limit yourself to coaches. It can be other people who have been influential, and it can have been a mechanic or a team manager or a friend or whatever. But yeah, that is something would be really interesting to hear to name a few. There's probably a lot of people, of course.
Yeah, no, definitely. I mean, for sure, I'm gonna forget a lot of people that have, really helped me on the way. But there are definitely some people that, that comes to mind really quickly. And my current coach that I'm working with now, Barry, he's really, like, we started working together in 2019, and yeah, then it's been a little bit on and off. When I was on Cannondale, I worked with a coach from the Cannondale team, Phil Dixon, which also is, I mean, he's really helped me a long way in cycling, but also, yeah, like, in life in general, I would say. But like, those two definitely stand out. And then I think I have to mention also, like, my first coach that I really worked with was, I'm not sure if you know him, Thomas Bonne.
Yeah, we
Yeah.
raced together. Where I think he's 1 year older than me.
Yeah. So, like, I was working with him, like, in my youth and junior years, and also, yeah, up until 2019. So I think it also adds up to, I don't know, 6 years maybe. So for sure, like, we didn't have a really close relationship as I had with the two other coaches, but obviously we trained a lot together. So he's definitely helped me to reach a lot of races and a lot of, goals on the bike.
Yeah, and I mean, you're a mountain bike racer, and Olympic cross country mountain biking are pretty stochastic races. They're a bit unpredictable and technical. I mean, where do you see what can a coach actually do and control during a race? How do you see your interaction with the coach during a race?
I think, like, the obviously, like both with Barry and Phil, they've both been present at all the races, so they actually can communicate and talk with you during the race, which sometimes makes a difference, sometimes not. But I think the most important is all the work and all the chats and the communication and that you have beforehand. Like, the coach is really like, I think obviously the training is one thing, that, but also getting you in a really good place mentally, making you believe that you have what it takes to win on the day, and assuring you that you've done everything you could. All these things is, it's done before the race starts, and I think it's a very big part of of your preparation. It's not training, but it's still a big part of the preparation. And like with both of them, I've had a lot of communication, like most days daily communication, and we're talking about not just training, like actually not so much about training, more just what goes on around the training. And I think that's a really important aspect of the coaching, is understanding like the total load on the person, which is not, the training might not be the biggest part of actually what happens. And balancing out emotional stress and physical stress and all these things is really what I believe is the key part.
How would you say, training wise, and all the things you're describing now, if you want to put a number on it, how would you say that when it comes to importance? Is it 60-40 to the either sides, or is it 50-50 or 90-10, or?
I think it's so individual. I think it's really, I can only speak from myself and what works for me. And I definitely know that if I'm not balanced right in the head, then it doesn't matter what training I'm doing. It's really, it's a lot more important to be, to be in a good place in my head than it is to do more training. And I don't really know the exact number, but I've learned through experience that the training, what I'm doing, is actually not the most important. Is actually how I'm balancing the training with all other shit that goes on.
Yeah, I recently heard someone say that performance, and it was specifically talking about performance in cycling. It's 95% physical and 5% mental. The problem is that those 5% control the other 95%.
Yeah.
So it is, of course,
you can't
important.
access the 95% if it's not working, the 5%.
Yeah.
This is very interesting, and if I ask, like, if we spoke now to 20-year-old Simon, do you think he would agree or disagree with your takes today?
I think I wouldn't understand it in the same way as I understand it now. I'm not sure. I don't know if I would disagree, but I wouldn't understand it. Like, I wouldn't understand the importance of it.
So it comes with experience, you say?
Yeah, I think so. I think a lot with training, one thing is that your body adapts probably better the more training you've done, but a lot of it is also experience, and you learn to make better choices based on experience from previous years and previous sessions, or and you can maybe eliminate some of the mistakes that you've done earlier. I think that's that's what experience is, in my opinion.
Absolutely. I mean, you said it's been a little bit, you have changed over the years. Would you say that the way you want to be coached has gone from prescriptive, do this, don't do that, when you were younger, and being more principle based, or whatever you want to call it nowadays? Is that a fair description of it?
I think that when I was younger, I preferred to have like I don't know, a fixed plan, and then try to follow the plan as good as possible. And where now I feel that you cannot. It's always good to have a plan, but I think it's very important to be open to change the plan according to what comes up. Like you can't predict everything that's going to happen, and you don't know how you're going to feel in 2 weeks if you plan 2 weeks ahead or 1 week ahead. I think just being more like not so fixated on like following the plan, but being open to adapt the plan. I think it's what I've changed.
Right. So like a specific question in this area is like finding that balance. So how would you describe the perfect 48 hours after a world championship or a big World Cup race where you really exhausted yourself? How would a perfect 48 hours to recover look like?
Yeah, I guess it depends if there is another race coming like quite soon after, or if there is a longer period of no races. I think it's a little bit different, but like normally when we race, then there is another race like the next week or the next 2 weeks after, or, and I think the next, like normally the day after, I try to go for a ride. I enjoy to get on the bike the day after and just process everything. It's always, I feel, the best way to like decompress after races, to go for a ride, and maybe with someone else, and you can talk about what happened, or go by yourself if you feel like you just want to ride it out. And then normally the next day, 2 days after, I take a rest day, just completely day off and recharge and try to do other stuff than riding my bike.
Is there something you usually do that, or can it look really different? What kind of non-biking things do you enjoy those days, those rest days?
I think, I mean, it can look very different. It also depends. Normally we are traveling like, between races, or if I'm at home, luckily we get to race a World Cup here in Andorra, so can stay at home, and then it's a little bit different. But most of the time we're traveling, and then either it's a travel day or it's we move to another venue, and I like to go for a swim in a lake or mountain lake, or anything like getting out in the nature I enjoy.
Nature is the universal medicine for everything.
I also enjoy just being at home watching some I don't know, some series, or just doing absolutely nothing. It's also some days I really enjoy that.
Yeah. So have you always had a coach during your career, or have you been self-coached at any point?
I would say I've always had a coach, but I've had periods where it's been self-coached, and I think in the later years I've been also more, as we spoke before, I've learned how important it is to use the other things that's going on, and really, and I think no one but yourself knows it better. So actually, there was a large period last year when I had my concussion, and I was really struggling to find any sort of consistency, and I almost found it. I found it worse to have a training plan because I wouldn't be able to follow it, and it kind of, it was more flexible to not really have a plan and just go by feel, and really literally go day by day, see how I'm feeling, and I used that to practice also, how I build my training.
Yeah, you mentioned the concussion. That was a period. I've been looking historically. You've had 1 or 2 years that have not worked so great. Tell us a little bit about that, and how you got there, and then how you got out of that rut, so to speak, and especially if there's something that a coach did to help you there.
Yeah, I think if I think back to my career, I think there's been a lot of bad moments and hard periods, and in some way I've always managed to turn it around and come back in some way, and I think a lot of the mistakes that I've probably made I've learned that, learned it the hard way, don't do this, or do this instead, and there's a lot of things that probably could have been avoided. There's also some things that couldn't have been avoided, and unfortunately, crashes and concussions and stuff are part of our sport, and it doesn't matter, but sometimes it's unavoidable, and it's also given me some really important learnings, that I've been able to use to my advantage. So I think it comes back to the same people that we mentioned earlier. It's always been working with good people that keep you on the track, and that keeps telling you that you are good enough, and you're gonna get there, and it's not just a coincidence that you've done this or done that, and it's never fun to be in a hole or in a hard period, but also through experience, I think that I've learned that it's possible to come back to a consistent level, and this is something that I've been struggling with most of my career, to find good consistency.
Has there ever been a time in your career, even when you have a setback or when you're on your highs, that you felt like you've been maybe not overcoached, but a bit too much, or even undercoached or undersupported from not just coaches, but from maybe the team surrounding, or friends or anything like that?
I feel like first year, I think I would say that unfortunately in sports, the better you do, the more people support you, and it's always people always want to help a winner, and the people that is but that's never the time when you need you don't need support from most people. but you really see who's actually behind you when it's in the hard times, and that's when you really need it, and I feel that I've been in I've been grateful to be in the position that I've been in, like in the times where it's been tough as well, because I have had support, from teams or from coaches or federation or like sponsors or whatever it could be, and I've always managed to find a way out and to solve the problems or whatever. But I can only imagine that some people don't have the same support, and if you then run into problems, then it's really, really difficult.
And I mean, of course, you need support from people, but you need to be able to take that support as well and ask for it. Is that something that you have developed, the skill of getting the support you need? And because people are not mind readers usually. It kind of needs the athlete to be good at communicating as well, especially when you're in a rut and getting out of it.
Yeah, it's definitely something that I've become better at, with age as well, and yeah, I think it's something that probably I haven't been the best at early on, and yeah, I think I don't know how to further explain that.
Well, it's usually something that comes with age, and
Yeah.
of course we're all individuals. Some people learn it when they're 17. Some people never learn it, and most of us learn it somewhere along the way.
Yeah.
Should we maybe dive into some more philosophical questions, maybe? What do you think, Fredrik? Do you have anything more on the coaching side?
Well, I would like to know if there's. I actually had this discussion with my kids yesterday because they out of the blue, together with friends, told me and another parent what they thought were the mistakes that parents usually do. And I mean, of course, we kind of knew already, and the same with us as coaches. We kind of know where we go wrong. But from your perspective, where do we coaches? I mean, you have had experience with several. Where do we usually go wrong with athletes? What's your perspective on that?
This can be a long podcast.
I think, like, yeah, it's a good question. I think it's very, again, very individual, like from each case to another. But I think getting, like, generalizing, I think it's probably like trying to put everything into numbers, like put every person into a number, or trying to, like, get this out of instead of. And I think it also comes down to the resources, that not everyone you can't coach a 30 athlete and talk to them for 2 hours every day. That doesn't add up in time. And I think that a lot of the coaching, like what I've seen gone wrong, is probably in the communication as well. That if a rider has a plan, and then the rider is maybe not communicating well, and the coach is not asking, and then you just end up doing the training that you shouldn't have been doing, or you don't do something. And I think the, like, yeah, this is becoming a complicated answer again, but I think that a lot of it is probably in the communication, but also that trying to measure everything. Like some efforts or some performance can't be measured in numbers, and not every athlete takes the same to get them to perform.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, 100%.
And of course, that's quite obvious when it comes to more like technical skills. But I'm guessing you also mean like a person isn't an FTP number. It's something else.
No, exactly. Like, maybe like if you have 3 people in a team and they are 3 very different people, they don't necessarily need the same preparation into the race to perform. Maybe one guy needs to have 2 days off and just play PlayStation and be happy, and another one needs to be structured and do his intervals and study something, and another guy needs to go and have coffee with his friends to feel less nervous. And like it can be, not there's not just a single formula that works the same for everyone. And I think that's when the numbers can say one thing, but what happens in the head and in the mind is another thing. And to figure that out for each individual is a very difficult skill, I think, as a coach.
Yeah, tapping into those 5% that controls the other 95% is that is the trick, of course. The most difficult part of being a coach, but the most exciting as well. Definitely. So go on, Eric.
You mentioned numbers, and that gained my interest a bit. What what numbers or what metrics do you use and trust the most when it comes to your training, and which metric has misled you before?
Power meters. In general. I think there's such a there's such a big variance in power meters that actually you should never compare power to anyone else, because you don't know how the power meter was calibrated, or how much higher it's reading or how much lower it's reading, and the way that it's measuring. And it's like, I still have power data from 7 or 8 years ago that are 8-10% better than what I'm able to do now. And it doesn't mean that I was that much better back then, but just the power meter was reading higher. And I think if you get too hung up on power meters and comparing with what you see on YouTube or wherever, like, or Strava, where everyone can do 500 watts for an hour, it's like, I think power meters are I think it's a great tool. I use it every ride. But I also am really picky with my power meters now. I've always used the same one, and I change it from bike to bike to bike to bike over, and I know that it's calibrated. I know that it's working, and I know that it's reading right for me. And it might not be the same as someone else, but for me, it works, and that's all I need. And I really use a really good measurement for me is time, and I do intervals in the same places, and I know how far I get in 10 minutes. If I go to that tree, I know that I'm fast. If I don't go to that house, then I know I'm not so fast. And it doesn't lie. It doesn't matter how much power you're doing, or you can measure it in real time. And I know there's a lot of influence on that as well, like rolling resistance and weight and temperature and all these things. But if you use the same equipment most of the time, and you take into account those things, you can really compare efforts and see how fast you're actually going, regardless of what the power meter or the heart rate or anything says.
Absolutely. And I think our first guest on this podcast, who is a time trial specialist on the road, he was talking about that, yeah, power is absolutely a fantastic tool, but when it comes to performing, it is speed that is the key. And focusing too much on power makes you lose track of the little details that actually makes the spaceship go faster. Which is like variations in power and how you take a corner and how you whatever. And I mean, those things are even more important in mountain biking than it is on the road as well.
Yeah. I mean, it doesn't matter who has the most power in the race. It's about who crosses the line first. And it, if you look on the power files from a World Cup, I mean, most people uploads their rides now to Strava, and you can see, I mean, most people have the same average power or the same normalized power, but it doesn't, it doesn't show you who's winning the race. You can't just look on the file and see who did the most power. It doesn't work like that.
Luckily, otherwise races would be really boring.
Yeah. No, definitely. Then we could race on Swift.
Yeah.
Well, should we move on, maybe?
Let's take a even more philosophical approach. So we want to hear a little bit of like your philosophy as an athlete. And to start things off, like if we followed you around for a year, what kind of trends or habits or things would we probably notice with you?
Well, you should ask Jenny about that. She could probably tell
She
you.
will, yeah, she's welcome back to the podcast to talk about that.
Yeah, I mean, I think I like routines, but also I really hate it. So it's a bit. I like to do like the same types of training. I like to like compare. If I do this session and then next week I do the same session, and I can see if I improved or not. And I really like that. But then I also like to like change things up and do something different. And so, but I think like in general, if you follow me around for a year, like not much happens. Like just like some training, some racing, some relaxing, and just spending time in the mountains, riding bikes.
Yeah. So spending time in the mountains, we talked about you've moved from one of the flattest countries in the world to the mountain country of Andorra. Was that decision purely nature, or was it a performance decision as well from altitude training?
Yeah, so I stayed in Girona for some years as well, which is not too far from here. And I think I kind of I was staying like both in Denmark and there, so I wasn't like full time either of the places. And I was I think for training it was nice in Girona, but it was really too cycling busy, like too many cyclists and too much cycling world, and you couldn't really go outside without meeting some other cyclist. And I was quite fed up with that, and I don't really like. I knew of some people that were living in Andorra, and I spoke to someone that said it was very very peaceful and very different to Girona. And I don't know, I kind of just went for it, and I moved here. And yeah, immediately I really liked it. It was very peaceful, very calm, and really good for training. I like the mountains, and the altitude is also really nice. Lots of nice mountain bike trails and endless of mountains to go with the trial motorbike. And just go and explore and ride e-bikes, and yeah, it's really a perfect place to relax and to train.
Okay. Well, I want to pick up on something that we talked in the beginning of this conversation a little bit that you started with cycling and you've done a lot of cycling disciplines, but you mentioned trial motorcycle as well. So that's something you do. I know you do a lot of ski mountaineering as well. Which other sports have you done in your career? And is there something like that you really like with doing other sports than cycling in your training?
Yeah, I think it's a really valuable tool to like incorporate different sports and different types of training, and just to become more like versatile and just be more of an athlete rather than just a cyclist. I think it's really beneficial, especially in mountain biking, that you can use your body in different ways than just pedaling up and down. I think it's an underrated skill.
Can you explain that a bit further?
Which part?
How do you? We know that you use the body, all the body in the when you do mountain bikes, but can you explain like how do you think and feel about it when you do cross training and stuff like that? How can you implement what you do into your mountain bike training and racing?
I think firstly you get like a different stimulus on the muscles and on the body, and at some point you also reach a limit on the bike of like how much you can keep improving, and then you also have to look in other areas, like, you know, and it could be different types of training, or like, you know, doing something on the bike differently, or like, as you said before, like going into smaller details and stuff. But I think it's like, I think stuff like, I don't really do running, but like stuff like running or like skiing in the winter, or like I'm really a fan of riding the e-bike a lot, for not because, not like, I think most people think e-bike is just for rest days and you can go easy on the bike, but I think it's a really good tool to like improve your riding, because you're handling a much heavier bike. You're going faster than on your normal bike, and you process things, like you learn to process things quicker. And when you then get on your cross country bike, you know, everything goes a bit slower. It feels very easy to move the bike around. And same with a trial motorbike, you know, you go even heavier, even heavier bike, you know, when you can move that thing around, then it's so easy to move a XC bike around. And again, with when you learn to do something at high speeds, then I don't know what happens in the brain, but you kind of learn how to process things quicker. And then when you have to do it slower, it's not so difficult anymore. And I don't know, I think the same thing for skiing could, you know, if you get comfortable at going high speeds, and, you know, you're using your eyes and your coordination, and, you know, you, I don't know exactly how it translates, but like something always, like, you know, you can always take with you.
Is that something that you've always done, or is that something that has come with age, the cross training focus?
I think it's something that I've always done, but not consciously. Like it's something that I've always done just out of playfulness and stuff, but it's not something that I've been thinking of as training necessarily.
It has just been fun play.
Yeah, I think like, I don't know, it doesn't matter what you're doing. If you are juggling with a football, in some way you're also training your coordination and your balance, and in some way when you get on a bike, you're also gonna improve. It's not like 1 + 1 = 2, but in the bigger picture, like if you can work on your whole body as an athlete, like all skills, like in a cross country race, you have to use all the skills that you have in your toolbox, and sometimes it can be anything.
Are there any, beliefs around like these? Are there any beliefs that you have scrapped over the years, or that has like emerged new kind of beliefs around training or how to live as an athlete?
I think at some point when I was younger, I was at the belief that always more was better, like, or harder is better, and it's something that I have learned is not true, for me at least. Um, I still really struggle to hold back sometimes. I think I really enjoy going fast and pushing myself, and I have to be disciplined and hold myself back a lot of the time. And this is something that, it doesn't come so natural to me to just take it easy and, ride around slowly. And this is definitely, I know that it's not beneficial for me to go too hard all the time. So that has changed.
Is that something you've learned through some of the ruts, so to speak, that you've been through over the career, that you got there because of going too hard too much?
Yeah, definitely. And also like through the coaching that I've worked with, it's like, learned that to get the best out of me, it's, it doesn't take, you don't have to go hard all the time, and you don't have to push yourself to the limit all the time.
Yeah.
Easy is fast. Well, fantastic. I think that is a great place to start wrapping up. Are there any loose ends from your part, Derek?
No, I don't think so. I'm pretty satisfied as well. It was very interesting to hear you and your thoughts and experiences.
Anything you think we should bring up, Simon, that we haven't touched on yet?
Good question. No, I think I thought of like when you mentioned the thing with the, like in juniors before, like that I was very successful, and I came to mind, like at that time I was just having fun and just doing exactly what I wanted to do, and I wasn't trying to like be in a certain way of. And then I think like the thing about like turning professional, getting into bigger teams, and I think I had a lot of there was some sort of expectation that I thought I had to fit in the way of a professional. I have to do the things like a professional. I have to live like this to be seen as a professional. And in the end, I came to realize that, it doesn't really work for me. Like, it's not the way that I wanted to do it, and I always ended up compromising on how I actually wanted to do it, and I wasn't having so much fun with it. And it wasn't until the last few years that I really learned that, and I started doing things just the way I wanted to do them, and I didn't really care how it was perceived as professional or not. And that's when I really found that I was having success again, and I was really enjoying riding and racing and, doing things my own way. And this is just like a really cool learning, and I don't know, a good advice for someone else, that you don't necessarily have to do things the way other people want you to do them, or the way other people expect you to do them. I think you can follow your own like your own path, and that's also more fun.
It was nice that you dove into this one again, because I remember I had a question about this in the beginning as well. But this playfulness and having fun as a junior and becoming world champion with that, was that something that you had from yourself, or was that something that the national coach Mats Pudker put onto everyone in the team? Because as you said before, it was a pretty young team when you got there as a youth cyclist and junior. Was the playfulness something that he endured, or was it something that came from you?
I think it's something that I've like that was just the way that I enjoyed riding bikes and training by, like, there was, and it was, until that point, it was always like that. I was, I wasn't doing it to be professional or to be, I was just having fun with it. And that kind of disappeared a bit, when, not from one moment to another, but when you get into the teams and the structure, and, suddenly, like, also, I think even from when I was professional till now, like when I turned professional to now, it's also changed a lot, because at that time, social media and stuff was not really, it wasn't really a thing yet. It wasn't. And now it's like a lot of the job of being professional is you have to do, you know, these photo shoots, and you have to be, all like available for video shoots, and all, and you have to do interviews at the races. You have to do photo shoots at the races. And all these things is not actually, is never the reason why I wanted to become a professional. And this is just part of the job now. And, it's a big part that is taking a lot of the fun away from what actually, is not just riding your bikes anymore. There's a lot more commitment and a lot more responsibilities of sponsors and, marketing. And I totally understand that it's part of it. It's also the people that pay us to race bikes. So it has to work, but it's definitely not the reason why I started riding bikes in the first place.
So, I mean, the whole scene of professional mountain biking has changed. Well, everything has, with the social media that you mentioned. But do you feel that the mountain bike scene, especially the teams, have a bigger acceptance, or a smaller acceptance today for individuality? Like I said, that you felt the pressure to fit into a professional mountain biker, that role. Do you think that it's more individual and accepted that people are different today, or is it even more you have to fit this description?
Good question. Um, I don't know. I can't answer that.
But you at least become comfortable with being yourself in the context of being a professional mountain biker and not feeling the pressure to be in a certain way.
Yeah, but also it also has come with age now, because I feel that I am in a position where I don't have to prove myself anymore. And when I was 17 years old, when I signed with Specialized, and I didn't have the same I was just the
A
newest
17-year-old.
the newest in the game, and I didn't have any experience. And since then I've been, just traveling around the world, and, living with other professionals, and being taught and told what to do, So actually I haven't learned things my own way. Like, a lot of things were just decided for me from a very early age, and it wasn't until I became older that I kind of could, like, choose for myself what I actually want to do and how I want to live my life in a very, like, to say it very hard, but that's the reality.
Right.
Yeah.
I think it's quite easy as a 17-year-old to kind of perceive that I have to be this way, and to especially maybe nowadays when you have the social media, you see all the professionals doing this and that, and like you said, it's part of the job, but behind the scenes they're all people, and that have their individualities as well.
Yeah, but there is, I don't know if it's just my perception, but there is certain, like, things that you can't do as a professional. Like, you can't eat bad food, or you can't drink alcohol, you can't do this, or you have to go to sleep at 8 o'clock in the evening, and you have to sleep 10 hours, and there's so many things that, like, especially if you get influence from a young age, that you think that you have to do, to succeed as a professional. But in the end, it's not true. There's a million different ways how to be a professional, and you just have to figure out your own way and what works the best for yourself. And is that like, that's also, like, part of what a coach can help with, figuring out those things, like, how do you get the best out of this person?
Find out who are you as a professional athlete, if that's the route you're going down. Yeah, there's certainly more than one way to skin a cat, and more than one way to be a professional cyclist.
Definitely.
Yeah. Well, it was very interesting to hear everything.
Yes, thank you very much for your time. It's been a blast for us talking to you. I hope you felt that we were gentle with your first podcast.
Very, very good experience.
Nice.
I don't.
Well,
I hope I didn't fuck up. I think
not
even
yet.
the least.
No. So I was just say thank you and good night.
Yeah, thank you, and say hello to your wife for us as well.
I
Yeah.
will. We are going to South Africa tomorrow morning, so we still have
right.
some packing to do.
Nice. Well, then you better get cracking with that.
Yes. Thanks.
Perfect.
Thanks
All right,
for.
thank you very much.
And that brings us to the end of this episode of the D-VELO-P Cycling Training Podcast. For more training tips and deeper dives into performance, you can follow us on Substack and check out our blog on our webpage as well. You can of course follow us on our social medias, Instagram and LinkedIn, and of course Facebook. And if you got any questions or ideas for future topics of the pod, leave a comment below this episode. We'd love to hear from you. Thank you for listening. Keep pushing forward, and we'll see you next time.